This is the American Lair Show. Thanks for coming. If you're a subscriber, if you're listening sometimes, you're just listening one time, I appreciate it. Thank you. My name is Dave Money, and this show is all about the appreciation of classic clothes and all things Americana. If you dress real prep, you might like this. Ralph Lauren collectors, you might like this. You love the great outdoors, you might like this. It's like this, it's like this. This is the American Lair Show, episode 6, RRL for days. I'm kicking it with I Am the Dean. You know him from Instagram. He's a RRL collector, real official. What's up, Dean?
Dave, what's going on? How you feeling today? I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to the interview.
No doubt, man. So I've been waiting to get you on the show for a long time, and finally you're here.
Definitely here and ready.
All right, so you're a RRL collector, right?
That is true. I have been collecting RRL label items for quite some years now. Obviously, I started out with the Polo collection when I was a little younger, in my teens, but definitely graduated to the RRL label.
Right. It started in school, right?
It definitely started in school. It started in my early teens. I attended a Catholic high school, so we were allowed to wear button-ups and khakis with some restrictions, but it wasn't uniform. So I was able to buy Ralph Lauren Polo button-ups or Oxfords for school with ties. So that's kind of where it all started or manifested itself, along with other influences, of course.
Tell me about the other influences.
Other influences would be, as far as individuals, would be my stepfather, who really into fashion growing up, and he would leave GQ, magazines on a table. And as a 13, 14-year-old, I took a lot of interest in looking through those books and looking at the clothes or the suits or the shoes. And I ended up, obviously starting to obviously embrace the fashion side of things. So that's kind of where it started. And then obviously being in the inner city, you get a little bit of your streetwear from obviously your friends or public schools and things like that. And then obviously going to Catholic school, you get the preppy side, which is get you a little refiner.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned GQ. I also had GQ. I had a subscription when I was a teen. I was the only person I knew with a GQ subscription. Did you read the articles?
Very little of the articles that I read at that particular point. I was more interested or enamored with the actual products or items within the GQ magazines, and obviously trying to attain some of those things. You'd see a J. Crew, boot that would catch your interest, and then that would be my mission, to try and figure out how I could get that boot because I saw it in GQ. So that's kind of where that went. So the articles, unfortunately, at that age weren't too interesting to me at that particular point. But now, obviously, they are as I got older. But
tell me more about that Catholic school background. Was it strict?
The dress code wasn't strict. Fortunately, for the guys, we didn't actually have to wear a uniform. We actually had to wear, like I said, khakis and button-ups with a tie, as long as they were pastel colors. I actually grew up in Jamaica and went to a prep school in Jamaica, which was much more stricter than the Catholic school here in the United States, in high school. So I would say the prep schools growing up in Jamaica were a little bit more stricter than the schools here.
Okay, so at the Jamaican schools, you weren't able to mix it up?
Not at all. We just had khaki tops and khaki pants. It was straight uniforms.
Now, had you worn the pastel colors in the streets of Jamaica, would your peers have been receptive to that?
I'm not quite sure back then that would have been received maybe as well as it is now, but I can't really put a stranglehold and say that would have happened at that particular time because we were so locked into wearing our uniform. So thinking about seeing a peach shirt would be, it'd be obviously a new reaction for folks down there. So
funny enough, I grew up in a tough neighborhood, But everyone was always, in general, everyone seemed to be cool with the flashy colors. Like, we never had a problem wearing like the pinks and the peaches, even for tough guys.
Definitely, definitely. It's obviously now has manifested itself into very, obviously it's worldwide acceptable. But if you're around a group of individuals that see things differently and not, aren't pigeonholed in one way, then you would definitely be able to do that. Obviously.
How did your stepdad dress?
He was more of a blazer, button up, driving shoes. He was that guy, ties, and he was definitely one of the sharp dressers and took pride in dressing as such. He was one of the first, obviously, individuals I saw take, Oxfords to get them cleaned to the cleaners and, different things like that he would really, be detailed about, kind of gave me a lot of influence,
Mm-hmm. He wore polo, right?
Polo was his main thing. I definitely knew he had Hilfiger and other items, obviously, that probably I didn't know about, but I was more interested in, obviously, his polo items and things of that nature. Actually wore a plaid blazer, which was in my high school yearbook for my senior pictures, which was actually his. But cool. I really loved the jacket, so I chose to wear it, which no one else in high school did. Everybody had their shirt and tie on, and I actually came in with a blazer.
That's cool. My stepfather was a pretty sharp guy too. He worked at F.W. Woolworth. You remember that store?
I do remember that store. We actually had one in Plainfield, New Jersey, on Front Street. So Woolworth was definitely a familiar name store in my family.
Yeah. Okay. So they called my stepdad Woolworth Willie. And sometimes on Friday nights we'd go to the mall. We go to Woolworth with $20 a piece and buy clothes.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is. I mean, I ended up having a job in high school at the Sears, and was able to get ties and things of that nature. Just to flip it up a little bit. So very familiar with trying to make sure I obtain things as a young man.
Right. One more thing about my stepdad, he took the most pride in ironing his shirts. It took a long time, but he did a good job. He always used the spray starch and everything, and that sort of stuff was just good to see.
Definitely, I'm a big supporter of ironing my stuff out, my clothes and things of that nature, and that also started based on Catholic school and going into high school, making sure I had a crease in my shirt, and I started ironing my clothes, or I was taught how to iron my clothes probably about 13 or 14 years old. So I was all about making sure I had that look. And ironically enough, I ended up winning best dress in my my Catholic school based on the fact that, guys were able to wear a little different, outfits to school. And then on dress down days, I would wear different things that they hadn't seen. So, ironically, I did win best dress in the Catholic school, which is pretty funny, right?
Yeah, that is funny. Considering you all should have been wearing uniforms. I was kind of robbed for best dress, but I won't talk about that.
It still hurts, huh?
A little bit. Hey, so I mean, we know how you started with the polo, but who or what got you into the double RL?
I just basically started, checking them out on the websites. Noticed that they created, had different. They had different cuts, which were a little different or a lot different than polo. And I have a slim frame, but I'm tall. So some of those custom fit polos and regular fit polos used to hang, not as well as I wanted to. So realized that double RL was more or suited or cut for me, and then obviously went along with the type of style of dressing I wanted. So it was just a seamless transition from Polo Ralph Lauren polo to double RL years ago. So
I noticed that the double RL pieces get my imagination going. Does it do that for you too?
They definitely get my imagination going and your blood flowing, which some people don't understand, obviously. But when you see an item that you really like, or, you think it's well made, or the details are really, really stands out, then those type of things get, a collector or person that, is into fashion or dressing, get them really, excited to, either obtain that piece or pieces, or, vice versa. So,
Right.
so I completely agree in that
Right.
sense.
True. And then there's the Americana aspect too. What?
Definitely. It's all about, Ralph, obviously, and, supporting that whole brand in general. Obviously, like you said, Americana, and obviously this is, driven from his ranch location in Colorado. But I kind of make sure I put my own twist on the items.
The double RL collector community is growing, isn't it?
It is definitely growing. It's a few of us here in the States. I know I'm definitely been doing it for a little while here, and I know there's quite a few, obviously, over in London, fellas that I've actually obviously become to, have be Instagram friends with, Ali Congress, and Julian Landa, and Mark one RG, and a few other guys in Japan and things of that nature that are, into double RL as much as I am. So it's and I see folks starting to collect some double RLs, and even DMing me for questions in regards to pieces and how to obtain some. So
It's a brotherhood, huh?
definitely growing.
Yeah. Hey, have you ever done an international favor?
Yes, definitely. Another double RL guy, and I forgot to mention him, the Curly Tramp, Nigel. Needed some denim work done in the States, and then items shipped to my house, and then I eventually shipped them over to England for him to kind of save him a little bit of stress and funds based on their shipping policies from the denim supply. So we'd already been friends or acquaintances on Instagram, and talked prior. So doing that favor was a no-brainer, and had no problems, obviously, in making sure that was done.
Oh, that's what's up. So, tell me what separates a collector from a casual wearer?
I know what you're saying. Definitely. I know. I see definitely quite a few of casual wearers where you see a piece here and there, but you can identify a collector by pieces that, not everyone would be able to either or have attained, or, are able to attain now, because they've, either dug or done research, or really, paid attention to what items were limited editions, or what items, stand out in their eyes. So you can kind of tell who is really collecting, and who are, buying, pieces once in a while for, outfits, for example, which obviously I am applauding that too. So there's no looking down on anyone that's, casually buying pieces, but you can definitely obviously identify who is a collector and who isn't. I mean, collectors have just, different items that,
Right.
folks wouldn't have in
So,
general.
so for you, there are specific pieces that you seek.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm into vests, and, into cardigans as such, and Henley. So I mean, I guess I'm into all of that stuff, but, when I see a piece that I think would really look nice on me, or color is a big thing, or how it fits into other items that are in my wardrobe already, or kind of how I kind of identify what I either want or would like to obtain eventually.
Have you ever jumped through hoops to get your hands on a certain piece?
Definitely has jumped through hoops. Double RL, I've jumped through hoops with chasing down, certain individuals. And then obviously prior to this, I was a rugby collector, Ralph Lauren rugby collector, and they had a wonderful cardigan which was located on a mannequin, which they wouldn't let go because the mannequin designer owned the piece. But I kind of, raised a little hell and called the manager a few times, and, told him that I really, wanted to buy it, and they had offered to sell it to me before, but nevertheless was able to purchase that item and still have it in my collection.
No doubt.
Brown rugby cardigan, button up with a nice R patch. Very nice piece.
I love those patches. Rest in peace, rugby.
Definitely RIP rugby. I
Yeah.
still maintain quite a few rugby pieces because that was definitely a flavor that I really started growing into. And luckily, I actually lived 10, 15 minutes away from an actual rugby store in the Short Hills Malls here in New Jersey. So I was able to have, access to everything. Even, was able to obtain some of the patches before they went out of business actually in the store when they were selling everything out. So it was a sad sight to see, but was able to obtain some obviously some collector's items from that particular, situation. So
Yeah. If rugby was still around, would you mix it with the double RL?
oh, definitely, rugby would definitely still have a place in my heart, no question. As with any label, there are some items that you wouldn't buy or I wouldn't be able to pull off or I don't think I would wear. So there are, with rugby, they had some certain items that I probably wouldn't continue to wear at this particular point, but I would definitely be mixing some of that rugby with the double RL, which I actually do right now. In one of my last posts, which generated the most likes I've pretty much ever had on Instagram, the cardigan, which is brown with a leather patch on the elbows, is actually a rugby piece, which I wore with all double RL other items. So it's still doing it now as it fits in. So
My rugby collection is light. I think I have 5 pieces.
well, yeah, I have quite a few pieces. I have a blazer and a couple cardigans, a button up, a couple of things of that nature. So scarf. I have Scullies, 2 Scullies, things of that nature. So I was definitely into the rugby at that time. Unfortunately, I've lost a few items because I eventually had to give them away because I started purchasing items a little bit too big for my body, and now when you go back and try to put them on, they looked a little ridiculous. So I actually lost quite a few of items within that rugby collection just based on not knowing my size as a younger guy.
I make that sort of mistake when I shop too often. Got a little extra money and I'm forcing purchases. I used to go out to the stores and say I'm buying something every week, and I started making mistakes.
Definitely have to be a little calculated and, to make sure that it fits in and something that you can utilize, because if you're collecting and you can't wear items, then it doesn't really, benefit you in that sense. So
Right. Now, what about the tailor?
I am a fan of the tailor. I definitely make sure that if pants need to be, taken in a little bit, I'll do that. Obviously, just a size here or there, but that's usually once I receive the item, because obviously I do online shopping too, and sometimes you're a little bit off a size or two just based on the fact that you weren't able to put your hands on it. And that's every once in a while. But majority of my shopping is done in the actual double RL store in Soho, New York, on West Broadway, and in on Bleecker Street, excuse me. So I usually get a chance to actually fit those items. So it's very rare that I need to do too much alterations. But when I do, I definitely make sure I definitely do a tailor run to get a few items. I actually have a brown pant that I obtained via eBay it's actually in the tailor right now getting taken in. So looking forward to being able to pull that out. So
How deep is the double RL collection now?
I would say I haven't actually counted, but a guesstimate would be in over hundreds, maybe 100 and something, 200. I'm not quite sure. And we're talking about obviously small items from belts to Henleys to t-shirts, to pants to Scullies to scarves,
Right.
things of that nature. So we're talking, obviously just different things that are all encompassing in the wardrobe. So, but I can't really give a number. I'm.
You're holding out. It's top secret, huh?
No, I don't know if it's top secret. I just haven't had the opportunity to put all the pieces down and say, all right, So it is definitely, probably a daunting task that, if I had to, I'm sure I would. But, I'm just guesstimating, that number would be, in over 100 and maybe in the mid hundreds. So I'm not quite sure exactly. But again, I'm not quoting these numbers because I'm definitely not 100% sure.
But it's respectable.
It's respectable, I would say. I hope it can hang with the best of them, or you know, and that it gets respect from the folks that are actually RRL collectors. So, and I have older pieces that some folks obviously haven't seen before because I was doing it for a little while. So, when those collectors, comment or recognize that it's a limited or a piece that they know that it's pretty much a one of a kind or two of a certain kind is it works out. I actually have a jacket that's it's 12 were only made, and I have one of them. 7 of the 12, the number 7 of the 12 RRL item itself. So I kind of hold things like that, like a little hidden there and there. A couple belts that are only 300 made, and I have I have one of them. So and they obviously put that statement or that imprint within that particular item. So you're aware of it.
When I met you, you had on a sick belt. Was that RRL?
Yes, so that meetup in New York, which was wonderful. I was definitely glad to actually meet you in person after we, communicated a few times on Instagram. So, that was just a nice manifestation of, a good little friendship, based on Instagram and
no doubt
having the same vision and things of that nature. But to get back to your question, the belt that we took a few pictures of and is definitely a RRL. It's one of my favorites. It's a tooled leather belt. Brown with a RRL buckle, pretty strong buckle, pretty heavy, and it's pretty versatile. So I kind of like it. I sometimes find myself wearing it a few times and not really, giving my other belts, RRL belts, a chance because I'm so enamored with that belt sometimes. So
describe what image was on that belt.
On that belt was basically the saying of the RRL saying with handshakes, two handshakes. So it's basically kind of RRL Union of Craft is basically kind of what it kind of says, and it talks about the trademark and the year it began in 1993, and it's just basically a heavy buckle. So it holds its own, but it's a nicely made detailed belt in both sense on the leather side and on the actual buckle itself.
Now you mentioned RRL for kids. What are your thoughts on that?
I find it interesting because obviously I have a young son that I would think about putting him into those items, and they actually have jeans for him in the actual RRL store in West Broadway in New York, and I had never seen them and really contemplated on getting some, but wasn't quite sure if if it would look a little bit over the top to have a 4-year-old in RRL jeans, but so be it.
Right. You just reminded me of Scott Stanger. His son is sharp, right?
Yes, actually good friend. Well, not good friends. I've met Scott, in person. Two occasions, we stopped and had a cigar in the city because he also works in New York City, and had a chance to actually run into him at the RRL store in New York, which was actually just random. And his son was with him at that particular time, and he was dressed pretty nicely, and there were actually 2 other Instagram associates or folks that I talked to on Instagram that were actually in the particular store at the same time, and a young lady named TV Van Heiler, I'm probably not saying that right, and her husband, I think his Instagram is Work and Wear or something to that effect, and so random meeting of 3 other Instagram friends, as we would say.
Do you have any pieces you'll never wear?
I actually have a piece that I probably am going to get rid of eventually because I'm just not going to wear it as much. Actually, 2 pieces. It's a wool sweater that kind of doesn't hang as it should in the waist, and some jeans that are actually limited edition, but they're just entirely too small for me. So yeah, I do have a couple pieces that I got that I knew they were going to be really limited, but ended up not being liking the fit itself at that particular point.
Okay, well let me ask that question a different way. Have you ever bought a piece that you didn't intend to wear because you just wanted to keep it as a collector's item?
No, I don't. No, I don't do that. As a collector, I actually want to wear pretty much everything that I purchase, and that's really usually the reason I am purchasing it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't purchase, a jacket just to put it up to show off or show. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm planning on wearing that item sooner than later, most in most cases. So I would say that answer is actually a no
Right.
for just purchasing an item for a showpiece. You know what I mean?
Right. Ali Congress said something similar. He said he actually works in his good pieces. He said people think he's mad, but
No, I mean, yeah, I pretty much everything that I kind of collect or do collect, I wear either to the job or if I have, in situations. So I pretty much wear all of my items or a lot of my items daily, even if it's casual, a hoodie. If it's a double RL, I'll still make sure I wear those pieces and not really just put them away to try to save them. So wherever I get an opportunity. So I've had to change my tire, in my double RL jeans and Red Wing boots. So so there's nothing you could do about certain things like that. But I'm not gonna go rake the leaves, for example, or things of that nature in some of those items. But I am all about wearing your items.
right. If you weren't a double RL collector, which brand would you be into?
I kind of like, I think I would be a Banana Republic, kind of individual. J. Crew, I think I like their type of stuff. I don't discriminate as much, or I wouldn't discriminate as much. So I have other pieces in my wardrobe that aren't obviously double RL that I just liked, obviously, and they weren't double RL. So some of those type of individuals I would obviously still wear if I had to, if that was the case.
You ever wanted to visit the double RL ranch?
It's funny. I'm not really in that sense. I get more joy out of visiting the double RL stores that are, in different places. So, that would be more of the thing. I guess if I was in that particular region of the state, of the country, excuse me, then, I would, wouldn't mind. But, as for just, planning a trip, I would rather plan a trip to, the double RL store in, Hong Kong or the double RL store, in England, things of that nature. So not so much the ranch, but more the actual, store itself, those type of things.
Right. Hey, what would you say to someone who said this? You guys are crazy giving Ralph Lauren all your money. He already rich.
Well, I mean, it's everybody has their own thing that they collect or buy or purchase on a daily. Some people purchase, items daily that or weekly that they deemed is important to them or they deem that is something that they want. It could be something simple as buying a 12 pack of soda every week. That's what they want to do. Are they crazy for giving Coca-Cola their money when Coca-Cola is a multi-billion, billion-dollar company?
Right.
Some people buy records daily or weekly. Sony doesn't need their money at all, but for so for everybody is their own choice of what they would like to utilize, what extra funds they have to obtain things that they want to obtain in a specific area.
Right.
I also play a lot of basketball, but I really don't post that. So I spend, funds on sneakers and things of that nature, Jordans or Kobe's, but I know they're rich, but that's not for them. It's for me to play basketball in. So I never really look at it as giving that person more money. It's things that I want to have.
Exactly. Well put. And I like the soda reference. In fact, now I want an orange soda. No, but seriously, I think people forget that that clothes can be collected like anything else. They make it personal, about they look at it as you depositing money into the designer's account.
I mean, yeah, I mean, at that point, it's you, right? So even if you buy a sneaker or shoe or a hat or anything that's worth what you need to have for your own self, then at that particular point, it's what is it worth to you? So they think that you're crazy, and then that's a personal opinion. At that particular point, you can't really change that, but I'm sure there's other aspects of a lot of those people's lives that they're utilizing funds where others are saying that they might not or they wouldn't do it, do that. So, and with everybody, it's the same thing. You have guys that collect cars, and fix cars up or fix houses up, or it's just different things that you want to put your funds into. But somebody's getting money regardless of who is it going to.
Exactly. What's next for your collection?
Just keep growing it. Like, things that I still want to obtain. There's things that I might see, even by others, by influence. I might see a jacket here that I might want to get or things of that nature. But, there's different things that I want to get. I want to get a couple more, really dressy double RL items, another suit, things of that nature. So just kind of grow it in that aspect and just keep being versatile in the items that I pick up. So, I have a couple items that I'm waiting for right now just to add to collection because I feel that it fits into what I already have. And, I like like the items. So those are the things that keep me, looking for what's next at that particular point.
Right, bro. Last question. Do you remember your first dope outfit?
Do I remember my first dope outfit? Yeah, I definitely do remember my first dope. Well, what I thought was my first dope outfit, right? So I guess that's what really the question is. What you thought was your first dope outfit, which was a Ralph Lauren polo. I guess it was like a pullover sweater with polo across the front, and I had some Jabot jeans, and I had some Jordans, maybe. I think the threes when they actually came out, not the all that stuff that's coming out. And at that particular point, I thought I was definitely cooking in these streets.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably circa 1994 or so. And so, that was probably one of my, more like casual outfits. But as far as like, dressing up with a shirt and tie and things of that nature, I think, a couple of the items that I wore to school were really like items that I really thought were really, good. That blazer combo that I wore for my yearbook picture was one of my favorites also. So.
And now I'll tell the listeners how I know you're a collector.
Okay.
This guy still has his first low shirt.
I definitely still have my first low shirt, frayed edges and all. I remember purchasing it vividly from Macy's, and was very excited about it, and immediately think I put it on immediately that night, if not as soon as I got in the car. And luckily, my grandmother and aunt kept it for me, so I was actually able to reminisce on it and pull it out and take a look at it, and kind of was nostalgic about it. But yeah, I definitely have that first item for whatever reason. It's still around, and I gained maybe 5 pounds since high school. So
Wow. Well, Dean, it's good talking to you. Give us your IG handle.
Oh man, Dave, I appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking to you again. Obviously, our meeting in New York City was a lot more personal, so I definitely appreciate that. My Instagram is I am the Dean. That is IAMTHE and DEAN as my first name. So, and hope everybody enjoys or have interest in some of the things that we have similar interests in.
Oh, definitely. And before we go, I want to give a shout out to Scott Stanger as well. And his Instagram is SCOTTSTA.
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not usually good at remembering some of these things, but I appreciate you correcting that and giving him his shout out.
No doubt. Hey, Dean, thanks again. Come back soon.
Oh man, I'll come back whenever you want me to, and no question. And hopefully I'll catch you in person when I'm down your way very shortly.
Definitely. American Layers. We out.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
Once again, thank you for allowing me to share my obsession with you. It's been great. I can be reached at dave@americanlayers.com. Be sure to hit me up. Catch you next episode.